Can hear you.
Oh my. Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
We're fine.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Okay. Richard, are you in the room or just online?
I'm online.
Oh, so you could hear everything that I was saying. Apparently, the network disconnected and they couldn't hear us. Sorry guys, what was the last thing that you heard? So I don't get to repeat the same thing because I kept talking. The Zoom here is still on. It felt as though I could still see you without realizing that the network has disconnected. I wasn't sure exactly how much of what I said earlier that you heard. Patrick.
Yeah, I think the last one we had was you trying to talk about Professor Emeagwali's role, like how she picked up the study of the history of technology. As one of the leading voices in that field. We lost it for about almost a minute or two.
Oh, okay, okay. I was emphasizing, and I'd keep emphasizing that as far as the issue of science, technology, and the environment in Africa is concerned, that Professor Gloria Emeagwali is a leading figure, is a central figure in the field. Uh, Unfortunately, and this is the part that I didn't say earlier, unfortunately, many scholars have not really engaged her work. We have a few of us who work in this field. We have engaged with Gloria Emeagwali's work, but outside our field of the history of science, technology, and the environment, very few scholars have actually engaged with their work with regards to its contributions to indigenous knowledge, broadly speaking. And this is another reason why we have convened this celebratory panel to engage with what she's done and to offer our own research as a tribute to a long career spanning more than 40 years in field of African history of science, technology, and the environment. And I also mentioned earlier that in addition to traditional academic work, she also runs what is arguably the most comprehensive, the most detailed website on the history of African indigenous knowledge today. Of course, there is still a lot more work to be done, but our website, africahistory.net, that's the title, not African history. It's www.africahistory, written together.net, is the most comprehensive website that exists today on that serves more as an online encyclopedia, as an online repository for African indigenous knowledge and technology, covering topics from African mathematics to African philosophy, African all kinds of stuff. And this is another reason we're inviting you members of the audience to reflect with us. And in addition to the papers that we are presenting today, that are going to be presented today, I'm also asking that you can hear me now, right?
Okay.
Okay, so in addition to the papers going to be presented today, I'm also requesting all of you to join us in reflecting on the state of the field, uh, in thinking about how the history of science in Africa, the history of science, technology, and the environment in Africa can be advanced, and in also reflecting on how Africans have used Western technologies. I mean the ways in which Africans have received, adapted, adopted, critiqued, consumed, reinvented Western science and technologies since the pre-colonial times, and the impact of those technologies on African society today, and also the ways in which we can bring local knowledge from diverse parts of Africa, look indigenous knowledge, indigenous science, technology, philosophy, the ways in which we can incorporate all of this knowledge into formal research to advance Africa's contribution to knowledge, in broadly speaking, and more precisely, Africa to also bring to the fore Africa's global contribution to the history of science, technology, and the environment. And this is where I pause uh, uh, my speech, considering the network issue, which is also part of the things that we're studying, but from the contemporary side of things, considering the tech issues in the room, and some of which is also a reflection of the global south and its relation to global technologies and all of that, ways in which we're using Zoom despite all the limitations. But I'll cede the floor to the speakers now, and we look forward to an enriching conversation with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that commentary. Thank you so very much. Really taking a lot of time, and coupled with the fact that we keep having sort of connection with it. So I think we'll just go straight into the business of the day. So far, we have just 2 speakers, but we'll keep checking to see if any other panelists have joined. Without taking much time, I would like to invite Richard Olivier, who will be speaking to us today on oral traditions in science and technology, the African perspective. Richard Olivier is a senior lecturer of computer science at the University of Delta, Agbo. He is a multidisciplinary researcher who focused on digital technology intervention across disciplines. His previous research focused on using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and software interventions for solving real-life problems in health and business. He has a background in computer science with expertise in software engineering and artificial intelligence. He is an early career researcher with 18 publications in both local and international journals. So, Richard, if you're ready, I think we are all ready for you. Given the situation of things, I think we'll give you about 15 minutes to make your presentation. So if you're ready, please, you can speak to the audience also. Richard, can you hear us? You have to unmute yourself, please. No, you have to unmute yourself. Last section. He's gone. I think his network is. Yeah. Okay. No, listen. You also can do it. No. Yeah. Keeping up with the work in Nigeria is terrible. The answer is so let's just give them some minutes to see those for now.
Okay.
Okay, I think Richard is back. Richard, welcome back. Can you hear us? How can I help you? Hello, Richard, are you there? I'm listening. Richard, can you please unmute yourself? I don't think he's here fully. Sorry.
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you.
Can you hear us
Can
now?
you hear me?
Richard.
I can hear you.
Okay, please, you can proceed.
I can hear you.
Okay, please, you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay. Let me turn on my screen.
If it means probably putting off your video just to help with the network, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, please.
Can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Can you? Okay, okay.
We can hear
I'm
you.
talking on. Okay, just give me a minute. I'm trying to see if I can share my screen. My screen.
Hello, Richard, can you hear us?
Can you? Can you? Can you? I can hear you. Can you see my screen?
Please, can proceed.
Okay. Um, Oral traditions in science and technology, the African perspective. Um, Oral traditions have served as a vital conduit of knowledge,
Please,
culture,
can you be more
and
audible? Please.
history across African
We,
society. Uh, can you hear me now? Is it better?
it's better now, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, it's better. We
Okay.
can hear
I
you.
said oral tradition.
Okay.
Oral tradition has served as a vital conduit of knowledge, culture, and history. Oral traditions encompass big songs, stories, poems. They actually reflect the culture of Africa. In the past, we have heard of where children gather under moonlight, where stories are shared, and those stories have embedded in them culture is being transferred from one generation to the other. That's what consists of oral traditions. Um, Over time, because of modernization and globalization, it has become increasingly threatened because there's actually a shift in from the normal African culture to the West.
Didn't stop. The problem for Lagos. It's really terrible. Yeah, but once you hear recording in progress, they are back. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I was there physically.
Okay. That's maybe your phone around.
Yeah, let's talk about it now.
So it's not Nigeria problem.
Of course, that's why I said Lagos.
Oh,
It's,
Richard, I'm sorry
it
for
says
that.
they are back.
Richard, can you hear us?
I
No.
can hear
I think
you.
I'm so sorry. We are
Sorry,
really
but
battling
what did you
with,
hear last? I can.
yeah, we are really battling with the MTN network here. It's just pushing us out from the Zoom, and we're trying to reconnect again. So sorry, please. You can just maybe start fresh, rather than continue from where you stopped. Please. Thank you.
As I said earlier, I was talking about the oral tradition, what oral tradition. I started by saying what oral tradition, what they are. I talked about the fact that they are vital conduits of knowledge and culture about history across African societies. I talked about the fact that oral traditions encompasses genres, songs, stories, proverbs, poems, which reflect the economic, political, and social aspects of African society. And and I said, okay, there's this because of this globalization and modernization currently taking place in Africa, even Nigeria in particular. There's this increasing threat of these oral traditions. In the past, you have heard of where children gather and elders or
It's a generous, I mean, it's never situation, not particularly, it's not particular to Israel. Just unfortunate that it's very much.
Richard, please go ahead.
can
We
you
are back.
hear me?
So sorry, please go ahead.
Okay.
We're just trying to stabilize the next of us. Please go ahead. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I said there's this increasing threat because of globalization and so modernization. So, but there's the need to actually preserve our oral traditions because it's crucial for safeguarding our indigenous knowledge and culture. And future generations, they actually need because embedding them, their culture, their values, which needs to be transferred from one generation to the other. Um, in recent times, digitalization has opened the pathway for preservation and integration of oral traditions. There are a lot of opportunities which have to do with which digitalization technology can help us to preserve this oral tradition. Yeah, while the advantages, I know definitely there are challenges because we talked about data accuracy and ethical concerns. This paper tries to explore the pivotal role tradition, development, transmission, and action of indigenous scientific and technical knowledge. Um, what's the nature and scope of African oral tradition? As I rather said it is transferred through the elders. It's a repository of wisdom. It relies on memory, performance, and communal validation. So there's need for communal validation to ensure that particular story is actually true. Because it relies on memory, when it's from one generation to the other, it's actually the threat of accuracy in terms of data, accuracy in terms of information that is being transferred from one generation to the other.
Remove your phone.
Okay. Without written records, there are concerns about dating, accuracy, memory distortion, reliability, and transmission. Error may persist. So, yeah, I said subject to oral traditions become memory lapses, subject to memory lapses, potential falsification, and the falsification due. These challenges are listed with oral transmission from generation to the other, gives room for image digitization, um, which um, which this paper to into a web application for Nigerian stories from various traditions, a case study from various languages. Then in 2024, did a sample study where we did try to use augmented reality to do a teach. Okay, in 2024, did a study teach model, which gives you opportunity to begin to learn, and while you're learning, you can still play while you're learning the oral tradition. You can still try to learn the indigenous language. Then there's a framework that's being proposed. Um, this 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 framework gives you the ability to capture. The framework gives the ability to capture knowledge from inception to capture knowledge from inception to full scale, from the knowledge identification and documentation to interpretation and culture and contextual to introduction, then validation and integration of the knowledge, then knowledge dissemination through technical support, and the need for support through policies and educational integration. In concluding, I would say conclusively, their preservation, oral tradition preservation, and thoughtful integration are not merely acts of cultural conservation, but essential step towards a more inclusive, diverse, innovative global scientific future, which technology can help preserve. Okay. Thank you. I'm done. I hope I was here.
you very much, Richard, for the presentation. Definitely, we would like to just apologize once again for you stressing so much because we were so disconnected on multiple occasions. We just have the people keep coming back to join the presentation. We're so sorry about that. The network has been very terrible down here. And the technical crew have been doing so much, doing all they can to get us back as quick as possible. Thank you very much for that presentation. I think what we can do right now is maybe to open up the floor for the audience to, since it's appears you're the only presenter right now, others have been struggling to come in. I think they came in, a lot of them left. So we will just open up the floor if any of the audience have any questions, suggestions, any sort of comments they would like to make to your presentation, and any other of the topics that was supposed to be presented this evening, but those presenters couldn't make online. I will open the floor just to have sort of.
She's online.
Okay. I think we have all of the presenters now. Edima, can you hear us? Hello, Edima, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself and say something. Edima, if you can hear me, please say something. Let's know you are with us.
In now. I'm in now, Patrick.
Okay, good. Thank you for coming on. So we will have to take a presentation now. I know because of the change in schedule and some other things you have to attend to, we couldn't get into the second part of the presentation. But we will just have to listen to your presentation to make up for the time. So Edima will be speaking to us today on rethinking indigenous knowledge systems among the people since pre-colonial times. She is a PhD candidate in the history department at the University of New York, and her research interests include African history, African economic history, gender, and sexuality. Anyone, please, if you are ready, I'll yield the floor to you so you can make your presentation for the audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edima, and I am presenting a paper titled Rethinking Indigenous Knowledge Systems Among the Ibibio Since Pre-Colonial Times. So to begin, I'm going to give a brief geographical insight into the Ibibio area and the Ibibio people. So the Ibibio people are located in present-day Akwa Ibom State of Nigeria, and the area is in the Lower Cross River Basin of Nigeria. The people are predominantly farmers, fishermen, weavers, carvers, tappers, hunters, and blacksmiths. The people possess an indigenous knowledge system, one that helped them to grapple with their environment through their indigenous knowledge systems. The people were able to establish various crafts and industries that provide them with essential products required for their survival, and also which help them to bolster their economy and also help them with their intergroup relations with their neighbors. So this paper is going to highlight those indigenous crafts and industries that were established by the people, as well as states' ways and measures through which these industries could be made relevant again. So we are going to start already with those indigenous knowledge systems of the people. Now, crafts to the Ibibio people were symbols of their material and spiritual heritage. Crafts were well integrated into the living patterns of the people, and were therefore prized objects for the promotion and preservation of tourism in the area. So the industries were grouped: weaving, canoe carving, cane weaving, wood carving, and others. There were many cases where the people revealed an understanding of the harmonious utilization of natural and human resources in their various arts. Now, this was evident in the practice of indigenous crafts like mask carving, figurine carving, drum carving, canoe building, local gin brewing, pottery, and also the judicial system of the people. Now, the Bibio land is blessed or was endowed with raw materials and the localization of certain. So some areas like the Ikore Bumitam area was endowed with clay, and the people in such areas specialized in pottery. Other areas had raffia, like the Ikotek Bene, and the people specialized in weaving and carving. In other areas, we had the raffia palm in abundance of fermented and non-fermented drinks. Another stimulant, which activity. The raffia palms were also woven and used for roofing mats, which were used for building houses. They were also used for fences around compounds. And they were used also to make racks where farm from the palms bag but dress for masquerade, and what was used as rope for tapping. Now, wood carving and other figurine carving, and this one specialized in the wood carving sector. The group made beautifully decorated wooden dolls for social plays and functions. And carved human figurines were also made by the people. And these were all. In addition, the people decorated and carved calabashes or pots and plates, which were used in almost every household. Now, wooden dolls and masquerades that were also carved by the people served not only as cultic objects, but were also instruments of amusement, like I said before. And the people were also noted for the abang play, which showcased their skills. And this even brought international fame to them because they made use of those wooden dolls, their brass rattles, the seed rattles, and others to amaze people. However, the use of these objects or these items declined with the introduction of Christianity and Western civilization in the area, since some of the people's attention were now shifted from those to those items or things which were brought in by the Europeans back then. The Ibibio people also engaged in weaving, and they made crafts such as mats, baskets, hats, fans, chairs, tables, and the rest. Suffice it to say that pottery was also carried out in various parts of the area, and pottery involved molding or hand building of clay objects into various shapes. And this profession was dominated by the women folk. Now, cottage industries performed social, political, and religious functions for the people. Apart from this, blacksmithing also took place in the area where the people produced their own local farm implements like their cutlass, their hoes, shovels, and implements which they used in their farming vocation. Now, in addition to all these items, The Ibibio people also had their own indigenous judicial mechanism or way of doing things. Okay, and this included they had what is called the Ekpe, the Ekpo masquerade, the Ekpe, the Ekriakata, the Mbiam, or what we can call Juju. They had the Okang, the ordeal system. They had the Idiong, the Venetian, and they had Eye, that is the palm front. They had Noenin, elephant talks. They also had the grandchild and the in-law institution as their judicial mechanisms. Now, talking about the values of indigenous knowledge systems of the people, we can say that we cannot overemphasize this. First, traditional crafts contributed immensely to the economic well-being of the people. While some had sociocultural and religious values attached to them, which made them highly revered. These arts or these art objects had artistic values because some of them looked really beautiful and pleasing to the eyes. For instance, the wooden dolls, the masquerade headwears, and so many other things were beautiful and pleasant to look onto. And they were used for their social plays, which attracted people far and near. Also, the uniqueness of those carved marks explains why, like I said, why the Europeans had to cut away with some of them when they came into the country. Also, carved drums and musical instruments, which the people produced, served sociocultural and religious functions. The mortars were used for pounding, and also it was also one of the judicial instruments for settling boundary disputes, because during the conflict settling, after settlement must have been made, mortars were usually buried at the boundaries to seal a peace relationship between the people and their neighbors. Indigenous crafts also stimulated interethnic relations and economic development in the area because it encouraged dependency of the people and also encouraged tourism back then. The brewing industries also did a very fantastic job because even the local gins that were produced, the Europeans or the white men, when they came in, they testified to the fact that those genes actually tested even better than their European rums. So local pottery on its own parts, where we had the production of clay pots and others, were believed to be very safe for storage of drinking water, as it was believed to contain alkalinic components, which purified water and reduced the pH of water. So this system was equally very healthy. And the wooden spoons, the plates, the trays, and all of that were very friendly. Equally, the indigenous judicial systems of the people no doubt regulated the people's behavior. It regulated the conduct of the people and also shaped their morality, contrary to the Eurocentric views that there was no institutions which regulated the affairs of the people. So with all this, we can see that indigenous knowledge systems of the people were very, very beneficial. Now, talking about how this system could be promoted once again or could be made to survive, because like I mentioned earlier, when the Europeans came in, they disrupted the local economies or the local industries and even shifted the indigenous people's attention from their local industries to that of dependence on European produced goods. So what are those things that can be done to make sure that those industries that we had back then, or those products, those things that were produced back then, are still retained? Number one, the government should create an enabling ground for cultural tourism to thrive. Then indigenous exhibitions should be organized. Festivals should be staged from time to time. And also traditional household crafts or utensils or items should be utilized again. No wonder in some restaurants or in some places where maybe we go to eat, we see that people are going back to using wooden plates, wooden spoons, and the rest. In fact, some restaurants are beginning to be fashioned after those local industries. So that is really impressive. If that continues, then we can be sure that our indigenous crafts will survive. Then religious objects like the wooden dolls, the masquerade headwears, and the rest should be kept in museums. And some of those household utensils or items that were used back then should equally be kept in museums for the future generation to equally, have a look at or to learn from. Then equally, alternative dispute resolution mechanism should be used in settling some cases or some disputes. I believe with all this, we can be sure that the indigenous knowledge systems of the people will be revived again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edima, for taking us through that trip. I also felt that I really relate to some of the conversation you're bringing up today because I spent 10 years in Emeagwali myself. I think this is a very insightful conversation you have really thrown to us today on the aspect of the indigenous knowledge system among the Indian people in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so very much for that. Thank you. So I think that is all the presentations we will be taking for this very panel today. We still have, I think we have some time to also have a sort of interaction, question and answer section. I know there will be questions for both presenters. So I think the floor is open. We don't want to take so much time because we've lost so much. If you have the questions, if you're online, you have questions, you can raise your hand, you can drop the chat. And if you're in the room, you have a question, sort of suggestion, comments you'd like to make. So any of the presenters, based on what they have been said today, please, we are ready to take those questions. Oh, thank you. Okay, I have one hand here. Okay, so all right, so I'll start with you. You just introduce yourself and then you draw out the question and comments.
My name is Sylvester.
Sorry, you want all the way to the pinpoints.
My name is Sylvester. So how question is actually
Okay.
and
Charles, so can you hear the person? Can you hear him? No, Edima, it's confirmed if you can hear the
Yes, I can hear him, but he should make his voice a little more audible.
If you can bring
than
the
that.
microphone a little bit closer to him, that would be appreciated.
Thank you very much. That would be nice.
Thank you.
have government made any active efforts in preserving knowledge, indigenous knowledge so far? That's the question.
Okay, I'm sure you just to reiterate that it's asking it because basically it says something with regards to preserving some of these forms of indigenous craft.
So thank you very much for that question. I heard his question. Yes, the government has made great efforts in order to make sure that indigenous knowledge systems of the people continue to thrive. First, in Akwa Ibom states, we have during the festivity periods, like during the Christmas periods, the government usually organize or stage festivals or exhibitions where the people get to exhibit their crafts, their cultures, their cuisines, their local way of doing things. We have that. And it is always done at the Unity Park in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you very much.
I think we have a question in the house. Please, can you get one? Okay.
My name is Soludo Okosh. I am University of Utah. I want to thank two presenters for a very good outing. I just have a suggestion for Richard Ove. I would want you to please look out for this reference material titled IFA, Divination and Computer Science. It was an inaugural lecture that was given at Ibadan in 1983. I think it would also enrich your work on oral traditions in science and technology. I mean, there's a lot you can actually learn from that, and it would strengthen your perspective. Thank you.
I do have a question, though, if there is no more question in the room.
All right, you may proceed.
All right. So my question is for Richard. And so I got to hear more part of the presentation, right? Because his network was also good while it was going in and out. So I'm curious to know if you could reflect on, because I got to know that you also work in the area of, you've done some work on artificial intelligence and other stuff. And I'm curious to know, this is a more contemporary question, the impact of artificial intelligence today, platforms like ChatGPT and all of those platforms, how African oral traditions, the oral sources, oral knowledge that you're working with, is there a future for African oral sources, African oral tradition within the context of AI? That's one part of the question. The other part of the question would be, what practical steps can people working in multidisciplinary fields like yours, Dr. Ove, what practical steps can we take to incorporate oral tradition into everyday lives, everyday online searches, everyday AI related stuff? So that those are the two questions, but essentially one or with two sides. Your voice is breaking. I'm not sure whether it's
very well. You're talking about, I think that was the first question. Okay, if I can get you very well, I think the first question is talking about the application of artificial intelligence in oral tradition. I think that's the first question. Hello?
Yes, that's the first question.
Okay. And like I said, one of the case studies I cited, I talked about the use of augmented reality. It's part of it's a part of artificial intelligence that can be used to give it makes learning fun, in the sense that what we're trying to do in that research was trying to see how and talk about maybe some values and try to see if they can learn some languages, making it fun. So where you see an object, for example, you have a 3D view of an object, and the object has maybe an indigenous name attached to it. So you try to see, even after learning, okay, for example, what an object in various languages. So it's more or less like making different areas that you can actually use artificial intelligence, oral tradition. And so I think the landscape is the first question. I don't think I can remember the second question.
So the second question is similar. The second question would be,
practical steps.
Yeah, practical steps. What practical steps you can take to actually incorporate, like if you could use an actual real case study of an oral tradition, because your work is more theoretical and as a historian. So I'm keen to hear, for instance, if you can pick like, okay, maybe it's something that you plan to do, or maybe it's something that other scholars have done. What practical steps can be taken to actually document a specific oral tradition? I mean, for instance, Edima presented on some case studies from Akwa Ibom State, for instance, and talked about some of the things that the government is doing. But now, within the context of AI and online research and augmented reality, has there been any case study of an actual oral tradition that has been brought into that realm? Or if there isn't, what practical steps can we take? Of course, you don't have to ask an answer for this question. It's just something that I'm thinking about on the spot as well.
If you were able to, I think it's possible that you didn't see my slide. Yeah, I cited some case studies, and in the case studies, I talked about the practical steps that we're taking for digitization. In the first place, I talked about we had created a web page before. We were trying to digitize some of these oral traditions in terms of in various languages. That was the first. That was to that was the practical step, trying to digitize those traditions. Then the second one was one I was talking about in terms of how to do with augmented reality, and trying to digitize some culture. Set them, so it took some languages, some individual languages. Those are practical steps that we can use. And the framework is a way of integrating those oral tradition and using
Richard, you're muted.
I think I have finished answering the question.
All right. Okay, thank you. I think your hand was up. Do you have a question for do you have something you want to say? Edima?
Oh, obviously, no. I am just waiting to entertain questions from the house, if any. Thank you very much.
We saw your hands up, so I thought.
So there is a question. There is a question for Edima in the chat, and it's from Umlandi. The question is: do you have any thoughts on whether and Ibibio and Igbo technology influenced or were influenced by each other? Do you have any thoughts on whether Ibibio and Igbo technologies influenced each other? And if the answer is yes, do you have any thoughts on how Ibibio and Igbo technologies were influenced by each other? So it's whether and how influenced or were influenced by each other. Do you understand the question? If you can see the question, I think it would be.
I think the person here is actually trying to link this to intergroup relations. Well, the Ibibio people are actually Igbo neighbors. All right? They are actually Igbo neighbors. We have some communities that actually have boundaries with the Igbo people, like the Aruchiku people and the rest in Abia State. So I think that due to culture, contact and transfer, these people may have learned one or two skills or specializations from each other. Think talking about the area of blacksmithing. Yes, talking about blacksmithing, we can give it to the Igbo people or the Aro people. They were really skilled or specialized in this area. So we want to believe that due to cultural contact and transfer, these people must have taught the Ibibio people about this. Thank you. They must have shared their craft together.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. And I was just going to also add a little to the conversation concerning what you raised in your presentation. I was wondering if you could actually help us throw more light on how it also has to do with sort of inter-relationship, or this time around, not with the people, but I'm just thinking in terms of the relationship between the BBO and that's typically economic in that context. I know a lot of craft work had been going on, is also going on right now in economic area, for instance, which is of course one of the areas of the Anna people. I was thinking maybe you can just throw some light to help us understand how the Annan people as well with regards to the indigenous tech craftsmanship are probably either related with the video people, vice versa. Like I'm trying to understand how their relationship are also, or we can also understand their relationship by way of indigenous knowledge, indigenous technology, and craftsmanship.
Okay, the Anna are a subgroup of the Ibibio.
Okay.
The Anna, I want you to understand that fact that the Anna people are a subgroup of the Ibibio people. So they had various crafts and skills, like I've told you, discussed earlier. There were skilled wood carvers. They were skilled figurine carvers, and they also specialized in making beautiful masquerades, headgears or headwears. So they are still part of the BBO people. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. Do we have any other comment from you? Any other comments, questions? Can you check the code? All right. I was thinking, Dami, if you want to say something else before we wrap up the section, are you invited to do so?
Did you call my attention?
Yes, I was thinking you want to say something before we
No. Oh, no, I wasn't planning to say anything else before we proceeded. You're the chair of this session. I'm just attending as a member of the audience.
All right, thank you. Thank you to our presenters, panelists Edima, Itwin, and Richard Oye for your outing today. We believe we've had some sort of new dimension, some sort of new insight into the whole concept of African indigenous knowledge system, African history of technology and science today. And we really appreciate your time with us on this panel. But we also want to really apologize with regards to the technical glitches we had. And we are so sorry about that. We know how disoriented and how frustrating it can be sometimes. Like when you're making a presentation and all of a sudden you're cut off from the audience and then you have to start all over again. So we want to thank you very much for your patience, and I really do appreciate that. I also want to appreciate our audience, those in the room here and those online. We thank you for your time and thank you for your contribution. Like I said earlier on at the beginning of the panel, this is the part one of the two sections we are running on this particular discourse on science, technology, and indigenous knowledge in Africa since the Precolonial period, engaging the scholarship of Gloria and Emeagwali. So in a few minutes from now, we will dive into the part two of it. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emma.